It's the Real News Network. I'm Greg Wilpert coming to you from Quito, Ecuador. Palestinians in Gaza continue their Great March of Return, organizing mass protests every Friday against the Israeli siege and occupation of the Gaza Strip. On Friday, Israeli forces shot and killed 2 unarmed demonstrators and wounded over 40 others. One of the demonstrators, Ebitsam Abu al-Qumsan, spoke about the protest.
We are holding peaceful protests. We sit here all together, here in the tents. No one goes to the fence, and even if men go to the fence, they go in a peaceful protest, nothing in their hands, without weapons.
Israeli security forces have killed over 37 Palestinians and wounded nearly 1,000 so far over the past 3 weeks. Joining me to talk about what is going on in Gaza is Ali Abunimah. He's the co-founder of the award-winning online publication, The Electronic Intifada, and author of the book, The Battle for Justice in Palestine. He joins us now from Texas. Thanks for joining us again, Ali.
Thank you so much. May I just say that, events are moving so fast today that since your intro was written, the number of people killed by Israel in Gaza on Friday, April the 20th, which is when we're speaking, has gone up to 4, and more than 700 injured. And among the dead is Mohammed Ayoub, a 15-year-old child who was shot dead by an Israeli sniper. And that makes him the 4th child to be killed by Israeli forces since the Great March of Return rallies began on March 30th, on Land Day.
Okay, well, thanks for that update. It's really quite something. And as these death tolls continue to rise, as I mentioned in the introduction, we've reached almost, I think, something like 37 now, probably even more. How are Palestinians not deterred by these killings? Why do they continue to demonstrate, bringing family members, even though they know that Israeli soldiers will use live ammunition against them?
I think the short answer is because they're human and they want to live a life of dignity. They don't want to live caged up in a ghetto as they have for so many years. They want their right to return home. They want the right just to be treated as human beings. And Israel is denying them that. You have 2 million people caged in the Gaza Strip, a tiny territory which the UN has said will be unlivable by 2020, but is really already unlivable. People cannot go in or out. Last year, according to the World Health Organization, 54 Palestinians died because Israel would not give them permits to leave the Gaza Strip for medical treatment. Most of them were cancer patients, and a disproportionate number of them women. So what Palestinians are saying is we're dying anyway, and we choose not to die silently with the silence and complicity of the world.
So what would you say are the protesters trying to achieve with the Great March? Do they believe that they can actually break through the fence and march through to their homes in Israel?
I think they're trying to break through the silence and the complicity of the world, first and foremost, to remind the world that Israel is holding them captive in Gaza and the whole Palestinian people captive. This week Israel celebrated the 70th anniversary of its so-called independence and received congratulations from governments all over the world. A number of European and NATO air forces sent warplanes to fly in an air show over Tel Aviv to celebrate this so-called independence, ignoring the fact that millions of Palestinians remain as refugees under military occupation in refugee camps, sealed into the Gaza ghetto. And this is nothing to celebrate. Palestinians are saying it's their independence, our Nakba. Nakba is the Arabic word that Palestinians use to describe the catastrophe of 1948, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, which is ongoing. It hasn't stopped. It has never ended after 70 years. And so the Great March of Return, these weekly rallies of tens of thousands of people, of families, of children, entirely peaceful marches, have were started on March 30th, Land Day, as Palestinians call it, commemorating the 1976 expropriation of large tracts of Palestinian land in the Galilee. And on that occasion, Israel also killed unarmed demonstrators. So this started on Land Day, and Palestinians are committed to doing this every Friday until May 15th, which is Nakba Day, the day Palestinians commemorate that 1948 ethnic cleansing. And Israel's response has been absolutely brutal and criminal. To shoot down unarmed protesters in cold blood with premeditation. Even the International Criminal Court issued an unprecedented public warning to Israel 2 weeks ago, to Israel's leaders, saying if you continue doing this, you could end up in the International Criminal Court. But I think because of the impunity Israeli leaders have enjoyed for so long, the coddling and rewards they receive from the so-called international community, particularly the United States and the European Union, Israeli leaders feel completely immune and are continuing to carry out these killings. And I just want to note that today it's quite amazing that after the killing of this child today, Muhammad Ayub, even the top UN official in the country, Nikolai Mladenov, expressed his outrage and anger. And this was unusual because he has been one of those UN officials that sticks to this line of being, very even-handed, of blaming both sides, even though there's no possible equivalence between a military occupier and its victims. But I think it goes to show that the world officials have run out of patience, can no longer cover up for Israel. But the question is what's going to be done. So far, we see no action. I mean, you take the case of Syria, and there were airstrikes within days before there was any hard evidence of the reported chemical attack in Douma. They didn't wait for international investigations. The US and its allies went in and bombed. Israel is committing these crimes before the world, and there is zero accountability. Zero.
Turning to a slightly different issue, can you tell us about the solidarity that's happening with the March of Return? Recently, 20,000 internally displaced Palestinian refugees inside of Israel gathered for a march in the Atlit, a Palestinian town that was destroyed by Israel and then settled with Jews. What can you tell us about the Atlit March, and are there any other examples of solidarity going on either in Israel or around the world?
Yes, I mean, the march inside Israel, I mean, we've been talking about the Great March of Return in Gaza, and also there are ongoing protests in the West Bank, Gaza and the West Bank having been occupied in 1967. But within the areas of Palestine where Israel was declared in 1948, there are also protests, and that's to highlight the fact that the way Israel treats Palestinians doesn't differ that much between the 1967 occupied territories and the areas where Israel was established in 1948. So those Palestinians marching are ostensibly Israeli citizens. They're part of the roughly 1.5 million Palestinians who have Israeli citizenship, but they do not enjoy the rights, the full rights of citizens. And this is to highlight the fact that within Israel, which advertises itself as a democracy, Palestinians are not allowed to return to their land, and even worse, are still being pushed off their land. Like, for example, the village of al-Hiran in the Negev, where Palestinian Bedouins are being forced out of their homes explicitly in order to give that land exclusively to Jewish settlers. And in terms of international solidarity, I think this is where the most hopeful story is, because just in the past day or so, Natalie Portman announced that she was canceling going to Israel to receive an award in June because of the recent events. And that's the latest example of a high-profile celebrity recognizing that Israel's brand is so toxic that because of these massacres, because of the ongoing occupation, because of the apartheid system, that they don't want their name to be associated with it. And that's been a particular shock to the Israeli leadership, because Natalie Portman is an Israeli American and has previously been a staunch defender of Israel. So even she could not stomach this. But we've seen a real growth in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement around the world. And the main call from Palestinians, and I think this is what people around the world need to know, is to escalate that solidarity, to escalate campaigns of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, as was done with apartheid South Africa, particularly to press for a military embargo on Israel, a two-way military embargo, including an end to police exchanges and police training with Israel. So another piece of really good news this week was the unanimous decision by the City Council in Durham, North Carolina, to ban all police exchanges with foreign countries, including Israel. And this is really important because you see what is happening in Palestine, where Israeli snipers are being told to shoot unarmed protesters in cold blood. And do we want this regime training police forces from the United States, who, by the way, don't need any lessons in killing unarmed civilians? However, hundreds of these police exchange visits go on every year. And so one of the ways of solidarity is for people to press their cities and states to ban these visits. No Israeli occupation tactics on US streets.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there for now, with that, but we'll continue to follow the situation as it develops. I was speaking to Ali Abunimah, Executive Director of the website Electronic Intifada. Thanks again for having joined us today, Ali.
Thank you.
And I'm Greg Wilpert for the Real News Network.